Welcome back, true believers, and welcome to the overnight edition of From Day One. Art Bell and Nassim Haramain from July 23rd, 2015 are with us to take us through the overnight as we conclude their conversation.
Universe and travel instantaneously. It's very real. And as I was saying at the beginning of our interview, this might be actually occurring in nature all the time, even at the subatomic level, so that particles that are entangled are actually connected through wormholes.
That good. Back to entanglement. I want to come back for a moment to mass consciousness, because I really want to ask about this. If everything is connected, then mass consciousness really does, or the possibility of it really does make sense to me. Have you looked at the experiments done at Princeton? And for example, as they monitored around the world with these so-called eggs, which are actually just computers spitting out random stuff, it just spiked through the roof before the 9/11 business. And then they have many other examples of spikes that occurred. And this claims to be looking at mass consciousness, at some sort of something. And here's the real wild part of it, that occurs before whatever it is that's going to happen, like 9/11, something really big. It occurs before it, which implies some sort of twist in time or knowledge of what's going to happen. I don't really know what it fully implies, but it fascinates me.
Yeah, it not only is it instantaneous, it seems like the communication is even so past the speed of light, to the point where it's a precursor, and you can actually, you could think of it that the events that we experience in our everyday life is actually a little bit slow compared to the underlying reality that's occurring. By the time we experienced it, it's actually, already passed by a few seconds.
Okay.
And so these eggs are actually, which are random generators that are all around the world network, that are supposed to be, spitting out random numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, when we have very significant global events that range from global meditations, by the way, to very dramatic events like 9/11, these generators start acting weird. They start to output coherent data, coherent spikes, and like you were mentioning, the spike starts to move towards higher levels of coherency prior even to the event occurring. And so
some kind of rift in space-time. It's really weird.
Yeah.
All right, here comes a big one.
Just on that subject, or just one more.
By all means.
What's really cool is that some of these experiments are done as well with individuals trying to influence the random generators, and that's been shown to be very effective. With your consciousness, you can influence a computer that's outputting random numbers.
That's a fact. That's a fact. As a matter of fact, they turned out a little program that allowed you to do exactly that. It would sort of, you could get any background you wanted on the computer, and as you concentrated, you tried to manifest this picture to become solidified in front of you on the screen. If you didn't concentrate on it, it would go back into the noise. And I experimented with that, and I'm telling you, it really works.
It's remarkable, and it supports the concept that you're connected even to a computer.
Exactly.
And so it really kind of starts to land that, wow, we're really connected to this material world around us.
All right. Before we ever get phones here, I really want to ask you if you believe that time travel in time, will actually ever become possible in either direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really good question. It could take a long time to answer because we would, as well, like the concept of time might be erroneous the way we think about it. But just to give the standard answer would be that it's not precluded from Einstein field equation, meaning that even the standard model of physics predicts that time can be manipulated and that we should be able to travel in time. It might sound a little mind-boggling, but when we actually start to modulate gravity,
Yes.
we may end up modulating time at the same time.
That's the same one, yes.
Yeah, because, it's space-time that we're affecting. And so the thing is that the way I see it from the perspective of the work I've done is that when you change time, you change space as well. And so that you are actually in a different place, not necessarily, at a different time. So you might not be on Earth anymore, that might be on a parallel or a reflection Earth in space. But that's going down the rabbit hole.
It is. How about questions about life and death? In other words, is it your view that when we, human beings, die, that's it, game over, nothing left? Or in physics, is there some way to, how can I put this, imagine that something continues when we die?
Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. Really?
Yeah, meaning that we know for a fact that no information can be lost. And so if you think of yourself, well, first of all, it's important to describe what we call death, because basically when
Be my guest, describe death.
Well, because all we observe is just a change of state, meaning that all the atoms you were ever made of and all the atoms you're made of currently are still there. They don't go anywhere. They just change state. They change form. And so if you thought about it that way, even in a very physical way, nothing really was lost. There's just a rearrangement of the information. And so I particularly believe that, the information still remains, and that it's in a different form. And it's in a form that's not necessarily directly accessible from our perspective, from our experience every day. But I don't see why some people wouldn't be able to access it, or, that even technologically, eventually, we would be able to access it. If the information is in the structure of space.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're talking about accessing information from people that, from our perspective, have died.
Exactly. That information is still present, and it may still be coherent.
What is that going to take? A quantum computer?
Yes, a quantum interacting device that is tapping into this field of information I was describing earlier. That's called the vacuum fluctuation that makes up everything we see and don't see, according to what I found.
Wow. You have given me so much to think about. Holy mackerel. All right.
It gets mind-boggling.
It absolutely does. You're in the mind-boggling business, no question about it. Nassim, give me a moment. We're going to take a break, but before we do, I wanted to, because we're a new show, I want to describe to people how to call. So hold tight. We'll be back with you after the break, and we will be taking calls. So here's the deal, folks. You know the phone number, the public phone number, right? It's area code 952-225-5278. That's 952-225-5278. That's an easy one to call. But then we've got ways you can call from all over the world. North America and Canada, folks, you have got your own window to get in and ask a question. How can you not have a question after all of this? It's Skype. And what I'm suggesting to you is that you put Skype on your phone. If you've got whatever phone you've got, a smartphone, put it on your phone. And the way you set it up is if you're in North America, Canada, whatever, go like you're going to make a new contact and put in simply, and it's not case sensitive, just put in MITD 51. MITD 51. And then you'll find that in your list, and you'll see the little phone symbol, and you can press on it with Apple anyway. I've got Apple. Sorry if I offend the Android people. And then the same deal goes for international calls. If you're somewhere outside the North American universe, put in MITD 55. That's MITD 55. Now, again, it will appear in your contact list, right? And after it's in the list, you can go there, and even though we haven't connected as buds, you can call it anytime you want. And by the way, it's free. Absolutely free. And the reason I'm suggesting all this to all of you is because when you do call by Skype, oh my, you get really, really good connections, as you can tell. Tonight I've been talking to somebody in Paris, France. Well, guess what? Though we've had maybe a hiccup or two, what a connection from Paris, huh? Way better than the average phone company could do. So it's kind of necessary for me to take a moment out and explain to people how they can call. Now, you can also do that from the computer of your choice. Apple or everybody's favorite, Windows, same deal. And, of course, that's the way you receive the show. We come to you on the Internet or on your local station, whatever the case may be, and through TuneIn. God bless TuneIn, getting us from here to there. So I hope I've explained it reasonably, because the phone lines are about to open. And we'd love to have your questions. Because, boy, this is really, really good stuff. I'm Art Bell, Midnight in the Desert, roaring. Who's going to tell you when it's too late? Who's going to tell you things aren't so great?
Dialogue sequence with Art Bell. Please direct your finger digits and call 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952. Call Art.
Listen, everybody, one more thing. Let me add one more thing, and that is, if you have not experienced listening to this program with headphones, oh, baby, you're missing a lot. We're coming to you in full stereo, and the audio should be actually fairly impressive. It's quite an audio chain we've got. So next chance you get, if you haven't done it, grab some earbuds. I'm going to tell you how to get some really good ones from Bob Crane, and listen to us in full living stereo. It is actually pretty impressive. And I'm not impressed easily by audio, but I'm telling you, It sounds really good. All right, Nassim, you're back on the air and hopefully prepared to answer a few questions.
Yes, wonderful.
Good. All right, well, here they come then. Let's start with Michael on Skype. Michael, you are on the air.
What a great show, Art.
Well, thank you.
You made the retired concrete executive's brain cells start moving again. Nassim,
Yes.
let's say that, and I'm not being negative here, but let's say we're able to manipulate gravity and get 300 million people off of Earth and be able to transport them 4 times the speed of light to Earth 2.0. I guess my question is how do we sustain ourselves? We are organic orgasms here.
Maybe you are.
Organic people here. We need food and water.
Well, yeah, but Earth 2.0, sir, implies exactly that there would be things to sustain us there.
But wouldn't we have to plant?
Well,
food.
Well, take seeds.
Okay.
I don't know. All right. Thank you very much for the call. Yes, of course we would have to sustain ourselves, but if we could travel at the kind of speeds that Nassim is talking about, then it wouldn't be a problem. We could run back and get seeds or whatever.
That's right, and we may not have to go that far. Meaning, we could, for instance, terraform Mars very rapidly. I mean, there's many efforts right now, millions and millions of dollars being poured into trying to set up a little colony on Mars,
right.
and by very large private organizations, and and they're planning on doing this with rockets, which is not really feasible. It would take thousands of rocket trips to put on Mars even a small community. But if you are able to control gravity, or you have gravity control,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you could do trips within a few minutes to Mars, and you could easily, when you have this type of technology, when you have this type of power of control, you can do all sorts of things that makes absolutely no sense with anything less. For instance, you can transport large amount of water. You can transport all kinds of materials. You can even capture materials that are floating around, like, for instance, in the asteroid belt, and bring them to where you need them, and so on.
Yeah, and you can even go back and get your rocket keys you left on Earth. Let's go to the phone lines. There's so many people. You're on the air with Nassim. Hi.
Hi, Roswell's Art.
Thank you.
We talked almost 15 years ago about this exact same craft. I saw it at Edwards Air Force Base when I was called in to provide some support equipment to the government.
Oh.
And it took me a year to find out what it was. And the guy said it was counter-rotating magnetic fields that projected a hole.
Yes.
That pulled the craft into whatever direction, and it went faster depending on how far out that hole was projected.
So, in other words, exactly what was described.
Exactly. It was at JPL Laboratory. I had to be cleared and all that. Never had to sign anything. I had one of those type jobs, like, you have a janitor. They're always there. They're always doing something,
mm-hmm.
but you're never quite sure who they're with.
All right. Do you have an actual question for Nassim?
Is this craft's been around since the 80s? Will it be revealed soon, in your opinion? And I was told that there was probably 60 of these things back in '89 that were operational as part of Star Wars. Is there anything that you've heard about that?
All right. Yeah, let's actually ask him. He's right. There are many who believe exactly what he said, that these craft that can do what you have described have been around for a relatively long time. Is there any chance, in your opinion, that all of this will get revealed to the world?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, many of these experiments that have been done in, behind the scene, what's typically described as black budgets in the military industrial complex, even since the Second World War and so on. I think that now it's emerging in the population, and it will become available. It will become revealed that and how to interact with the vacuum to produce energy and so on. These things are about to emerge, and it's going to change our world. It's going to rock our world, like at a very fundamental level.
You know, I don't often say this. People have been saying it for years, and I've heard it, but I actually think our world is about to get rocked. I've got this impending feeling that I've come on the air at the right time because something really big is getting ready to happen, and I'll leave it at that. Matthew, you're on the air.
Hello, Art. So
Hi.
happy to have you back on the air.
Thank you so much.
I was wondering about the potential for using this technology, this wormhole technology. Theoretically, would it be feasible, say, to activate a wormhole in the Yellowstone caldera and have the other end stay on the moon? And we could terraform the moon by moving the caldera to the moon?
Shifting real estate, huh? I don't know. That's pretty wild. Zim, you want to answer it?
I never thought of it that way, but I would say probably yes, correct. We could move massive amount of material across wormholes to wherever we want it. And it would be very effective in terraforming and so on, bringing in water. I mean, we could theoretically take a planet that looks like Mars or the moon, and bring water, produce atmospheres.
Sure.
I mean, literally, when you have control over gravity, you can do really incredible things.
And again, it's your view that we are going to need something like this because we're going to have a dire need to be off the planet en masse at some point.
Absolutely. And I think that any society in the universe that develop on any size planet eventually reach that point where there's just too many people, there's not enough resources,
Right.
And they have to learn to fly.
Gotcha. All right, to the phones we go. It just says anonymous. I assume not that group. Anyway, it's not a group. Not that massive.
Hi, Art.
Five
my name
people. Yes, hi.
Hi. I was going to say that I think people might be overthinking these propulsion devices. Instead of thinking of it as anti-gravity or depressions in gravity, I don't see why you can't just take two magnetic elements, which normally people would think push apart or pull together like magnets do, but adjust the variables so that the fields propagating between them, instead of generating balanced forces, generate unbalanced or unidirectional forces where one field is pushing and the other is pulling in the same direction, and then you will get propulsion.
Zim?
Very good. That's a little bit of what we're describing. It's a little more complex just because, you can't just get a magnetic field to attract to another one if you don't have the other one in front of it. So, it's a little, but it's along those lines. You're using magnetic fields, you're spinning them at high velocity, like the experiments in Finland from Eugene, where he's spinning a high density magnetic field in a superconductive disk and getting this beam of gravity coming off it. This is very much what you're describing. I think you get the right thinking. The theory is always a little more complex, but I think that's the right views that you have.
You have to remember
Go ahead, caller.
When you have fields propagating between two elements, they take time to travel, and during that you're not just they travel at the speed of light, so people forget that they think they happen instantaneously, but in the time that the fields travel, let's say from one element to the other, you can adjust the conditions in the facing element so that when that field arrives, it'll be pushing on one and pulling on the other very it's possible to do. It's a simple formula, actually.
Yes, that's correct. And it's just that in terms of overcoming the gravitational field, those propagating fields, those electromagnetic propagating fields, have to interact with space-time so that gravity is modulated as a result. That's where the complexity gets a little higher, because the magnetic fields, like the source of the magnetic fields, are unknown in physics, meaning we don't know why an electron is an electron and why, a proton has an electromagnetic or electrostatic field. These are starting to be discovered to be actually part of this curvature in space-time that's occurring at the quantum level. And so you're correct. Using the propagation of magnetic field in the structure of space-time, we can curve space-time and produce those effects. And I think spin is a very important component.
Apparently. Scott on Skype, you're on midnight. Hi.
Hi, Art. This is my first call using Skype, so I hope you can hear me okay.
You're doing very well. Are you on a computer or a phone?
I'm on an iPhone using earbuds and a built-in mic.
Sounds like $1 million. Proceed.
Okay, send me some of that. Anyway, last hour, Sam mentioned something regarding information about the departed, and that it might be possible using a supercomputer to reach them.
Yes.
And I did that actually in 1986.
Well, then you need to call me tomorrow night. I mean, obviously there's a big story here.
Okay, yes, there is, and I'm willing to tell you, and the lady that taught me how to do it is a psychic who I would love to have on your show. But I will call during open phones and discuss this, because it'll knock your socks off. So wear socks.
I will wear socks. I will be ready for you. Make sure and call me, all right?
Okay, man.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to do an early break, trying to squeeze as much as I can in. You know the phone numbers. You know the Skype way in, I hope. Now, there was an example of somebody who did it. And boy, does it ever work. If you use Skype the right way on your smartphone, you'll sound like $1 million. But I'm not going to send anything.
Want to take a ride? From the high desert and the great American Southwest, this is Midnight in the Desert, exclusively on the Dark Matter Digital Network. To call the show, dial 1-952-CALL-ART. That's 1-952-225-5278.
Hi, everybody. I'm Art Bell, and this is Midnight in the Desert. Very, very busy night. I'm going to find out if Nassim is still... Are you still there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. There was somebody trying to get in from Asia, and I think that I brought them on, but not successfully because it somehow put you on hold, so I didn't answer it the right way. I'm going to learn how to do it. So the caller from Asia, give it another try, and we'll give it another try. And in the meantime, hello there in Marysville something. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, my name is John. I'm actually in Yuba City, right next to Marysville.
All right.
I have a couple, hey, first of all, thank you, Art. You've been such a big part of my life for so long, and I'm so glad you're back.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions for your guest. You guys touched earlier on pole shift.
Right.
And I would like to know I'd like to elaborate on a little bit, some specifics, like how it would affect our electronics, our basic electronics,
right?
Internet and GPS, satellites and stuff like that.
Really good question.
Most of our defense and everything is relying on that, and I don't understand what would happen with a pole shift. Is it like positive to negative as far as electronics are concerned? You know what I'm saying?
Right. It would have a very devastating effect on many of our devices. Already the fact that the pole are drifting is, running havoc with some of the navigation systems for airplanes. They have to readjust the coordinates for landing strips and so on. Because of the change.
Actually, that happened down in Florida. They had to actually reorient runways or something. It was a big mess down there because of it.
That's right. Because of the pole drifting.
Yes.
So it really could produce some very big challenges on our planet if the pole shift happened in a very sudden way, especially. If it's more gradual, we may be able to adjust some of our technologies. But as we were discussing earlier, if it dropped dramatically in strength, it would be a big problem in terms of the radiation we receive both from the galactic cosmic rays and from our sun. So it, go ahead.
Go ahead, Colin.
No, I'm sorry. I thought that our magnetic field is decreasing now, and that's an indication of pole shift. Is that correct?
That's correct. It is decreasing, or it has been seen
to be. Would it be stronger? It will rebuild itself?
It will, yes. It's assumed that it would rebuild after the flip, as we can see from the records in the lava. And we do see from the records in the lava, spotting, and we see various weakening of the field prior to the pole shifts. So all these things are precursors.
Seems to me it's the devil in the details of the flip that we need to know about.
Yeah, exactly. It's not so well known because, of course, we don't have any records of any technological civilizations undergoing a pole shift. So we don't know exactly what it will do and how exactly it's going to do it.
Here's a question for you, one that you haven't addressed yet, Nassim, and it's how quickly or how long might it take for the flip to actually occur? Maybe this question you can't answer. I mean, is it overnight? Is it like, oh my God, it just slipped? Or is it over 100 years or 1,000?
Well, that's the thing. It was first believed that it would take hundreds of years.
Yes.
And then some of the latest data is showing no, it can happen very, very quickly in a matter of a few days. So, it can be very rapid.
Okay. All right, caller, does that answer?
I Yeah, that was awesome. I do have one other quick question. He mentioned earlier that NASA was working on creating a wormhole. Some guys at NASA were
I'm not
working
sure he
on
said
it.
that. I don't know. I don't think he said that.
He also mentioned.
I don't think he said that. No, I don't think he said they were working on making a wormhole. He said they were working on a drive, I believe.
Warp drive.
Warp
That's
drive,
right.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Sonny White and his team are working on using those fluctuations at the quantum level to energize a drive that would produce warping of space-time, which can lead to wormholes.
If NASA starts to make a wormhole, you'll let us know right away, won't you?
Yes, I'll give you a call.
All right. Very quickly on Skype, Ra, I believe it is. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks. I really appreciate it. I just have a quick question for Nassim about time travel, because I know you guys were talking about it earlier, and I find that very interesting.
So do I.
How do you feel about like the butterfly effect and the ripple effect and paradoxes and stuff like that? Because it seems to make time travel really complicated. Because if you go back in time, eventually in the future someone would go back in time. Would it mess up the current timeline, or does time fix itself?
Well, that's a really good question.
There's a lot of questions actually. The butterfly effect was asked about.
Yeah.
All right, let him answer. What about the butterfly effect? In other words, explain what the butterfly effect is.
Well, the idea that if you went back in time and killed your grandpa, would you be there to,
that's
kill him in the first place?
Yeah, that's a big paradox. The butterfly effect is like, if for example you went back and you made some wind, right? Wind, a little bit of wind. It might, in the future, cause a full-blown typhoon that kills millions.
That's right.
Right?
Right. The butterfly effect is that a small change could create a very large change eventually.
Yes.
And, directly related to the butterfly effect, I think there's something that's misunderstood about that, and is that, for instance, the idea that and that's why it's called that way, like that a butterfly in Africa could bat its wing and all of a sudden eventually produce a hurricane in Florida. There's scale relationships in the universe that are very fundamental to the way the universe functions, according to what I found. And these scales have to do with the impact of things on other things. Like, for instance, our Earth has very little impact on the sun. It doesn't even look like a grain of sand beside the sun. It's very, very teeny. The sun can have a very large impact on the Earth, though. And so the same for the butterfly, meaning that, like, if the butterfly bats its wing, the probability of that eventually producing a hurricane are extremely, extremely low.
Right.
It would take millions and millions of butterflies batting their wings all at the same time, and then maybe the probability would go up a little bit. So,
all right. Let's talk about the granddad thing. You go back and you kill somebody in your lineage, your grandfather, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's just impossible, right? Because you would blink out. It would be the moment the bullet hit and you died, you wouldn't exist, or what?
Right. Well, this is assuming that all these timelines are singular and linear. But actually, if the timelines are parallel to each other, you will not necessarily experience that in the reality that you're in. Meaning, if you go back in time, you might be back in time in a universe that may not be the one that you're experiencing right now. And in that one, you may kill your grandfather and not exist anymore.
So would you, in essence,
exist here?
Okay, would you be blowing yourself into a new dimension, essentially?
Right. You'd be experiencing a different universe.
Okay, caller, does that answer it?
Beautiful. Thank you. Exactly what I was looking for.
All right. Glad we were able to deliver. Take care. We were short on time. Very quickly, Tampa, Florida, midnight, you're on. Hi.
Hi, Art. Jimmy. How are you doing, Art?
Good. Jimmy, we don't have much time. What kind of question?
Basically, I just want to say hello. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
You're not doing radio gold tonight, Art. You're doing radio platinum. You're way out there, dude. I would love to talk to Mr. Nassim.
Yes.
And ask him, I got a question and I've got a statement, basically.
Okay.
Should I just go ahead and say it?
No. You shouldn't. I'm going to just pot you right down, and I'm going to tell you that there's not enough time for you to do that. So, tick, 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 tick. We'll be back. I'm Art Bell, and this is Midnight in the Desert.
For Dark Matter News, I'm Leo Ashcraft. Have you ever regretted sending an email and wish you could take it back? Or maybe you've worried about sending confidential information over email, especially after seeing the damage a large-scale email hack can cause, like the one that hit Sony Pictures last year. A new self-destructing email service called Dmail aims to eliminate those concerns, the introduction of a tool that allows you to better control your messages that are sent over Gmail. With Dmail, you can revoke access to any email at any time, and in a release arriving soon, you'll be able to stop recipients from forwarding your messages to others too. The idea for the new service comes from the team behind the social bookmarking service Delicious, a longtime web staple. Eventually, the team plans to make Dmail a freemium service, where some aspects will remain free for individuals, while power users and businesses will pay for other features. You don't normally hear about leprosy cases today in the United States, but a warning has gone out to Floridians to beware. 9 cases have been reported in the state so far this year, and the cause is thought to be armadillos. What's the connection? Armadillos are common in Florida, and according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they are the only animal to carry leprosy, a bacterial disease that affects the skin and nerves. Each of the Florida cases this year involved people who were in direct contact with the armadillos, and the disease could be spread through saliva. What's more startling, the Department of Health reports that an average of 10 Floridians are diagnosed every year, so having 9 people already infected this year is a huge jump. While armadillos are nocturnal, it is currently breeding season, so experts warn that you may come across some babies during the day. They may be cute. They can also carry the disease. So make sure you and your kids stay clear of armadillos. This is Dark Matter News. The FDA has approved a device that lets the blind see with their tongue. Developed by Wisconsin-based WICAB, the device translates visual information from a video camera into gentle electrical stimuli on the tongue. Eventually, users are able to interpret the signals to see where objects are located, how big they are, and how quickly and in what direction they're moving. If only Nikola Tesla were alive to see this now. A group of Russian physicists are picking up from where he'd left off, using his patents and ideas to finally create the masterpiece that had been long suppressed, wireless electricity transmission. Their work has been largely forgotten, and just like Tesla himself, they have not reached their funding goals, but they still seem to be publishing updates regardless. In 1891, Nikola Tesla gave a lecture for the members of the American Institute of Electrical Engineers in New York City, where he made a striking demonstration. In each hand, he held a gas discharge tube, an early version of the modern fluorescent tube. The tubes were not connected to any wires, but nonetheless they glowed brightly during his demonstration. Wireless electricity transmission solves a number of problems. It allows people to receive electricity without large-scale infrastructure costs. Transmission to remote locations becomes feasible, and terrain is no longer a restriction. This one invention could well grant billions of people access to life-empowering electricity, assuming they succeed. Imagine watching TV via the power of lightning. By using the Earth as a dynamo, or by making use of the existing potential difference between the ionosphere and the Earth, Tesla had hoped to be able to generate electric charge, which would be then dissipated around the world. The man was ambitious. Tesla's ambitions were thwarted by money. The first real Tesla tower, the Wardenclyffe Tower, was near completion and showed encouraging signs. The project would be abandoned when Tesla himself spent all of his savings on the project. I'm Leo Ashcraft for Dark Matter News.
Again, back to Paris, France, and Nassim, you still in place, I presume?
Yes, I am.
Good. All right, I believe we were talking with somebody in Middletown, Connecticut, and hopefully you're still there. Proceed, sir.
Oh, I'm absolutely still here.
Okay, good.
I'd like to preface this question for your guest with, I'm an evil billionaire. And,
it's Donald! No?
Well, no, instead of running for president this year, I decided that I would love to build an anti-gravity chamber in my house.
Okay.
But I have some concerns.
Okay.
And hoping your guest can answer them. When I'm floating in the air, now I kidnapped some of the best scientists from around the world to work on this. But they seem to not be able to answer the question of fire. Will I be able to smoke my marijuana as I float? Because if I can't float to a bag of Cheetos, I don't want to do it.
Well, that probably leads to the question. One way to travel would be to, modulate gravity, and this guy obviously travels a different way. He waited all that time to say that. Sheesh.
Oh my God, if I knew, I could have reduced my 30 years research long ago.
Yeah. Adam on Skype, you're on the air with Mr.
Hey, you sound better than ever on this digital network here.
Oh, it is. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Oh, man, it sounds good.
Yeah.
You're fascinating guest there tonight, and he mentioned CERN earlier, and I had got just a couple questions for him about the people over at CERN.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about these increases in their TeVs, that they're spinning these particles around faster and faster and faster. And then you also hear about, the closer you get to the speed of light, the more and more energy it takes. And I just thought it would be interesting from a practical standpoint. When they go from 6.5 to 13 TeV, which is, I guess, a little over double, or at double, I guess it's not linear as far as increasing the speed of these particles over there. Are they getting close to a point where there's a really diminishing return because of putting so much more energy in, but not getting that much closer to the speed of light? Is that a concern for them? And the second part of that CERN question was, is it really anything to worry about a black hole being created out of the research over at CERN that just gobbles up the planet?
Mm.
Well, as I was saying earlier, actually, there is an outside possibility in the mathematics that could occur, and that's what has created so much concern in some of the scientific community and the public. Absolutely, more energy you're putting into those things, there is a diminishing return as you get closer and closer to the speed of light. And, there's more and more time variations that are occurring. It gets very complex, and it demands a lot of energy. And at the end of the day, and there's other physicists that would agree with this, the whole concept of smashing particles together to figure out how they work may not be a completely valid concept. And so it's really not clear that this is leading to something very practical and fundamental in our understanding of the universe.
Tim, I want to interject something. When we exploded the first atom bomb, I think there were many, many scientists who thought, when they press that button, there is going to be a chain reaction in the atmosphere, and we're all going to die. Now, I'm not saying that everybody thought that, but many, many legitimate scientists thought that. And
Right.
yeah, but they still pushed the button.
They still push the button. I know, it's remarkable. Yeah, I mean, there's it's a little bit the same situation. There's an outside possibility that we could create a large enough energy event that it would create some disturbance. And generally, the scientific community doesn't believe so. But the fact is that the math does show that there's an outside possibility, and that's what has been creating a lot of controversy. As far as the validity of the experiment itself, I think there's a really good book, if you're interested, that's called The Higgs Fake, by Alexander Hundricker, which is a scientist from Germany. And I'm sorry, Unziker is his last name. And it's an excellent book because it gives a really good overall view, and certainly from his perspective, of the standard model of physics and why these experiments are not necessarily valid.
Well, they found the Higgs particle, right?
They say they did, but that's the point, is when you do the analysis, at the end of the day, it's really unclear that they found anything.
Well, now they're looking for something they claim smaller than Higgs.
Right. But this is the problem with these accelerators. We've been doing this for a few decades now, is that, we're always going to want to build a larger one and get a smaller particle. And my point is that that's not necessarily, a valid exploration. Maybe we should understand how these particles interact with each other. What is the geometry of the field? And, instead of trying to get a smaller and smaller and smaller particles, we might be able to do this to infinity. I mean, and it's been like that. We keep wanting to build larger accelerator and get smaller particles so that a few scientists can get a Nobel Prize for having discovered it.
Gotcha.
And that book actually, is a nice analysis of this. And it shows that the complexity in the model that's being used right now is so high, and it's so unclear what we're actually finding, that it's not necessarily a valid exploration.
All right, Wayne in Michigan, your turn. We're running out of time. Hi, Wayne. No, we don't want you to give your last name on the air, okay? So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, this is Javier.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. And first of all, I gotta say, thank you for coming back on the airwaves.
You're most welcome.
I have been listening to you since I was 15 years old. I am 37 now.
Thanks for that.
And I have a question for your guest, right?
Yes.
Mr. Nassim Haramain.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yes.
It's a hard pronunciation, Haramain, yes.
Yes. You're in Paris, France. I have one of my cousins is a diplomat, actually, and he works at the Salvadorian embassy in Paris, France.
All right, sir. Do you have a question? Because we're way short on time.
I do. I'm so sorry. Okay. My question is, how do you create the because if you're traveling, you have to basically you are pulling instead of pushing.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm saying.
He knows what you're saying. He set that up. He's the one who told you. Yes.
Yes. Well, how do you create such a bad depression, basically?
Okay, that's a very good question. I'm going to hold it right there. The depression that you're rushing toward to get that acceleration is what he's asking you, how you create it.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and that's why, although this was thought of and theoretically thought as a possibility, it always was thought that it would take so much energy to create such a depression. Mm-hmm. But what we're discovering right now is that actually it's only would take such an energy if you're not spinning the field. But if you're spinning the field, there's some new elements that are showing that actually space-time tend to want to spin with you. And it creates that depression with much less energy requirements, and that it's actually achievable even with very little energy. For instance, in the cases of the Finland experiments, or in the case of the EM drive. So actually making this depression may not be that hard, and in fact, from what I found, that this kind of depression are being created naturally by our universe, and that's what actually produces everything we see, the material world we see. There are little vortices, depression in space-time that we call atoms.
Maybe it will teach us. Lead the way, as it were. Mike on Skype, you're on.
Hey, Art. Just wanted to say you and Nassim have been the most fascinating thing I've ever heard. I'm very happy to be a part of that.
Thank you.
My question here tonight is, earlier we had talked about this idea that information kind of persists. And so my question is, does that open up the possibility of teleportation if we're able to extract that information and reconstruct it?
Ooh, interesting.
Very good. Absolutely. It does do that. It does predict that this kind of stuff can happen, and it has been somewhat achieved by various experiments, some in Australia at the Sydney universities, where they were able to teleport photons of a laser beam and so on. So it actually is in the works as well. This beam me up Scotty thing could be a possibility, absolutely. And as well, you know what, Art, some caller earlier, we were talking about psychic phenomena and so on. This new view of the universe where there's this field of information that connects us all of a sudden, starts to explain phenomena that have been in the folklore for hundreds of years, about people being able to remote view places they've never been at,
yes,
and all these things, remote healing, all this stuff. It starts to make sense.
It starts to connect the dots.
Universe.
It connects
That's
the dots.
Right. Exactly.
Mike, does that answer it?
It absolutely does. Thank you, guys. Nassim, I'm going to go download your paper tonight and just tear into it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very
much.
Good on you. Nassim, let me ask you, do you have a website? Do you have, I understand you teach some kind of online course. Tell us what you can about this while we have time.
Yes, well, we have a website called resonance.is, resonant is. People can go there and download my papers. There's all sorts of information. Actually, what's really cool to read is the articles that we publish there. So if you go to the news and frequently asked questions, you can get on our articles list. And actually, we just published an article on the EM drive and all this stuff. And as well, we have an online academy with a very extensive course that gives all of the details of the theory, what it means, how it applies to our lives. And, and every month I go online and I answer all the questions that people have that are taking the course. And so there's all sorts of ways people can participate. They can become a member of our foundation, nonprofit foundation, research foundation, and get updates on what we're doing and all this. So resonance.is is our website.
What a neat URL, resonance.is.
Yeah.
On the phone, hello there, you're on Midnight.
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Art?
Yes.
Hi, Art. Oh, man. This is wonderful to talk to you.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. Real quick, I think we're missing the big point here that he's trying to tell us, and that it has to do with spin. And I think that the theory of everything is going to come down to this idea of spin, because if you look at our solar system, if you look at our planets, if you look at even molecules and atoms, I believe that the very protons and electrons and everything like that even spin.
I don't think that we missed it at all. I think that he laid it out very well earlier. I don't think we missed
I'm
it.
just saying. I'm saying that he was talking about the idea that he's trying to figure out an equation for the theory of everything.
I see. Yes, yes.
And I think that that spin, this concept of spin, may that the equation that he's looking for may be in this idea. And just real quick, I even think that the Big Bang has this expansion, but I also think that it's also spins. I think that the Big Bang also has a spin to it, and not just an expansion, and that the universe itself is actually spinning.
I think you're absolutely right. We are so out of time. One last call, maybe. Cedar Rapids, very quickly. You're on Midnight High.
Hi.
Good. Go.
My name is Brett. I'm in Cedar Rapids.
Okay, you have a question.
For the guest, about waves. Particles, we all know about particles and atoms and whatnot. And is there a way that there could be waves that would create the particles?
Yeah, very good. Absolutely. In fact, particles may be waves in the structure of space-time. As I was describing, basically a particle is not like a billiard ball. It's a field that's being generated in the structure of space-time itself. And that field is being generated because it's a little vortex. You can think of it as a little eddy in the structure of the vacuum at the quantum level. And this is how I solve those equations. So absolutely, these particles appears as particles, but they're actually little waveforms in the structure of space-time.
That's it. We're out of time. My friend, it has been an honor to have you on the program. You've been amazing, and we're going to have you back again.
Art, it's my honor, and thank you so much for having me.
And, gee, tough it out there in Paris, huh?
Thank you.
Take care. That's it, folks. We're out of time, but boy, what a program, huh? From the high desert and the great American Southwest, have a good night, all.
And with that, we're going to make ourselves spares for the night as well. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another, and it's always time to release the Krakens as we march along here from day one. Have a great overnight. Enjoy your rest, and we'll see you tomorrow.